The Federation of Indian Pilots has accused the Wall Street Journal and Reuters of publishing misleading information. They've issued a formal legal notice and have demanded an apology. Now, what is all this about? A few days ago, a report was released by the investigative authorities, an initial report, I might add, not the final one. And it seemed to imply to certain people, famous influencers such as Captain Steve, etc., that this crash was the result of a murder suicide committed by one of the pilots. Now, as you can imagine, this was an extremely sensationalist headline that had a lot of reaction from the public. The video was viewed a lot of times, millions of times, shared millions of times, and many international commentators have gotten in on this trend. It had raised a discussion about pilots' mental health, and that seemed to be where the entire narrative was going. Meanwhile, companies like Boeing had an uptick in their stock prices, which were taking a big hit after the recent crash. What happened a few days after that is that the Indian authorities and Indian commentators have done a more detailed deep dive into this report and found it to be, quite frankly, extremely shoddy work. It has neglected to mention several key details and seems to have been written in a very biased fashion. One which people say clearly wants to paint Boeing in a very good light and point everything towards a pilot error, or rather, a pilot horrific choice. Now, before we get into some of these misgivings, I want to say two things. Firstly, that the final report is still not out there. So, everything right now is still more or less speculative on either side of this argument. Secondly, I want to say that murder suicide by pilots is not unheard of. Famously, a German pilot committed a murder suicide while flying a commercial plane. In fact, there have been speculations that the Malaysian Airlines flight that went missing was a murder suicide. It tends to be that the governments from these countries or the stakeholders involved don't want to accept that there was a murder suicide that took place. So now let's look at some of the points made by other commentators discussing the shortcomings of these accusations made against the pilots.
It seems to have been written to suggest that the pilot deliberately did it.
टाइम है 11 जुलाई 6:47 ये मैच करता है इस टाइम से जब तब इंडिया में 12 जुलाई सुबह के 4 बजे होंगे और एक्चुअली 12 जुलाई को ही एएआईबी ने रिपोर्ट 3 बजे रिलीज की थी तो इनको एक दिन पहले कैसे पता चल गया कि पायलट एक्शन था और प्लेन के फ्यूल स्विचेस के साथ कुछ तो गड़बड़ है.
This bulletin was prompted by a report that indicated that foreign object debris (FOD) may have been introduced during maintenance or rework of certain EFSS units. The FOD risks include, and number one, uncommanded activation of the engine fuel shutoff valve. That is exactly what this report is talking about in this particular aircraft. So Boeing and FAA recognize that foreign object debris (FOD) could cause an uncommanded activation of the engine fuel shutoff. It also says inability to actuate the fire handle. And then it goes away. The key takeaways, if you look in the last line, the biggest, effective 18th Jan 2023, the largest hazard, it says underlying hazard, FOD, leading to uncommanded shutdowns or failure of fire handles and, of course, obviously the engine shutoff. These failures could lead to serious hazards, including uncontrolled fires, dual engine shutdown, or total thrust loss. I mean, what is our AAIB has not seen this? So to, Wall Street Journal talks about a potential disagreement between NTSB and AAIB. What was that disagreement? Why did the investigators leave early? There's so many questions, and now in light of that, okay, immediately on the report, Boeing says there's no problem with anything. Then Etihad starts orders all, checks on all its 787s. Singapore Airlines has done it. Now, one by one, they're all asking for their carriers to do this. What's going on? So therefore, there was enough of doubt. I'm not saying pilots did it or didn't, exactly like Abhijit. When there is more data and the CVR is released, we can confirm. But let's go back to, there was enough of doubt over the mechanical and the electrical, and I'll come to the electronic part later, for them not to have put that line that there are no safety recommendations against Boeing or GE. Why give somebody a clean sheet at the get-go? You've just started your innings and you're declaring it. I mean, how can you do this?
So look, all in all, what is clear is that it is far too early to jump to conclusions. On one side or the other, it may be too early to even say that it is a corporate cover-up, as early as it is to say that it is a murder-suicide. Yes, is it suspicious about how this report was made? Is that a factor that may lead you to believe it was a corporate cover-up? Perhaps. Can you conclude based on that evidence? Absolutely not. And I think we should now, in the discussion around this, not get caught up in the same thing that we were caught up in earlier. We do not have all the facts at our disposal yet. Is it suspicious? Absolutely. But I think we need to wait for the final report. I know one of the points made is that there is actually no deadline on the final report. So there are several plane crashes which they publish an initial report where the law says it needs to be published within 30 days, and there's no deadline on the final report. So this could just go on in limbo forever. So perhaps what we need to push for more than an accusation to be levied is a final report. And maybe there can be some kind of law on how long you have before which you have to submit a final report. Hey, if you like this clip and you want to see more content like this, or you want to see our longer form episodes, please click on this link which will take you to our channel, or click on this link which will take you to another short video like this one.